So as I said in my last video, after I did the drive shaft center support and flex discs and transmission mount, I wanted to change the front ball joints, and I went ahead and got started without recording. You guys have seen tons of videos of me removing suspension, so I doubt you need to see that again. But just wanted to show you what I did not like about the ball joints is those boots are totally gone. Now the tie rods are in good shape. Those are nice and firm. So I don't need to replace the tie rods. I think someone may have done that at some point. You can see the tie rod boots are in good shape. So I think someone did that at some point, but they failed to change the ball joints. And I heard some squeaking when I went out on a test drive. And I heard the ball joints actually squeaking. That's how dry they were. So I'm going to go ahead and knock those ball joints out of there. What I've done so far, I just removed the calipers. That's 2 bolts on the back of the spindle. And I hung those up there so it doesn't stress the cable. And instead of popping the tie rods loose from the steering arm, it's much easier. And this is the first time I've tried it this way, but I've discovered it's much easier to just unbolt. There we go. The steering arm just bolts right here. And it's really easy. You don't have to use a ball joint breaker or anything like you do with the tie rod. So it's very easy. And you have to take this off anyway to change the ball joint to put it in the press. So I just take those 2 bolts out, pull that off, and then our spindle is free from the steering linkage, and we can easily then undo that nut and that nut, and you can see the upper control arms are in fantastic condition. Those boots are great. Somebody might have even changed those. I mean, that looks super good condition. Anyway, but I need to break that loose, and we'll go ahead and pop off the rotor. We'll take off the grease cap, pop off our rotor, break those loose, and we're going to press in some new ball joints. So what else I want to do in this video is time myself to see how quick I can remove the spindle, knock out the ball joint, and press in a new ball joint on both sides of the car and get the car reassembled. To get the car up on the lift and get the rotors, the calipers off and knock the tie rods loose, let's give myself, we'll say 30 minutes. I've already spent 30 minutes. So I'm actually going to start a timer, and I'll still record, but I'm going to start the timer and just see how long this takes me to get, basically to get to the point where the wheels are back on the car. So anyway, let's go ahead and get these grease caps off. Actually, I'm not going to rush. I'm just going to work at normal speed and see what it takes. All right, that is some fresh grease they have in here. So I know these bearings have been changed. There's also fresh grease in the grease cap, so that's good. Front bearings have already been changed. I'm going to look at the seal on the back when I get the rotor off. I also know they've been changed because they didn't put the little radio interference copper tab on the end when they reassembled them. So I'll stick those back in there if I have some. It really doesn't matter, but just to go for 100% originality because I'm OCD as hell. Let's get this guy out of here. There's our outer bearing. And I see that it's definitely packed with grease. I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera, but somebody has already replaced these guys. Oh yeah, we got a bunch of grease up in there too. And we definitely have a new seal that's been installed on the back. See the nice blue around there? That's definitely not an original seal. Somebody's already changed those bearings. So that's good. All right, let's get this one out of here. Okay, so the next step, I need to remove this dust shield. Guys, I've decided to take a little bit different approach. Instead of compressing the spring and removing it, I don't need to change the bushings, the inside bushings on the lower control arm. Those are fine. So I'm not actually removing the control arm. I'm just getting this outer spindle off. So I'm just going to lower the car into a jack stand to hold the spring compressed, and then just remove this outer spindle here. And I actually don't need to remove the spring. It's just going to rest on this jack stand until I reinstall it. Yeah. And guys, this stuff isn't under. These bolts aren't torqued down a whole lot. They don't need to be under a lot of torque. It's a tapered fit, these ball joints. So once you tighten it down a little bit, it goes into that taper, and you don't need to crank it down the rest of the way. Here's the tool I use. This is OTC, you can see the number there, 8149, small Pittman arm puller. This works great for Mercedes ball joints. And we're going to use our standard, tie rod ball joint press on the upper. And guys, it's important, put grease on your tool right there, so when you slip it in, I'll show you right here. When you slip it in, it doesn't tear your ball joint boot. See what I'm saying? The grease allows it to slip over there without breaking it. All right, let's press that guy out. All right, I'm just gonna stand back over here while I do this. There we go. Our ball joint is loose. There we go. Now we can get this guy out. There we go. There we go. Now just push that guy right on out of there. We have that nasty old ball joint out of there. Look at that thing. When I went out for the test drive, it was like, that is done. So let's go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll work on pressing them out. All right, got both sides out. Now you can see the ball joint on these Mercedes is pressed in. It's right there. See, it's pressed in from the top and comes down to the bottom. So the way to get those out is with a 5-pound sledge and a slug. And you gotta hit it a few good times, sometimes 5 or 6. There you go. See how you see it started to come out there? This is the factory procedure, you guys. This is, I know it seems barbaric, but this is the way you do it. There you go. There's one. Do not hold your hand right here and try to hit it, because it will break loose and your hand will slide down in there and it'll mess you up, man. Look how worn. It'll flop around. That is one of the most worn out ball joints I've ever seen. Look at that. I don't know why they didn't replace these when they did those tie rods. Anyway, time to put some new ones in. All right, we're gonna clean these up in the parts washer, get that old grease off of here. And I like to spray them factory black again so they look good on the car, even though no one's ever gonna see them again. I doubt any other mechanics wash these in the parts washer. They probably just take them off, put the new ball joints on, and put them back on. But because I have a restoration shop, I like to actually paint the suspension so and make it look good again. And you're not going to find that. Usually, you're not going to find that at a regular shop because it doesn't affect any of the performance. It's just for aesthetics. See how nice the spindles look now after cleaning them up? That original paint is still on there. It looks good. Yeah, those look actually pretty damn nice. All right, let's take this over to the press. All right, here we are at the press. And we got to get this thing set up at the right height. So our ball joint, of course, goes right there. Our stand goes right here. Then our tool, this actually, see how it has a slot cut in it? It contours around the control arm. I mean the steering knuckle. Actually, I think we're right there already. There you go. It's the press, and we're going to press the ball joint in. You can see it right there. And if you watch, you'll see the ball joint go into the spindle. See it going? It's almost down. There we go. There you go. A perfectly pressed in ball joint. I got my dirty fingers all over it, but it's perfectly flush along the bottom. See that? There we go. That's how that tool works. So let's go ahead and do the next one. There you go. See it slipping in there? And we should just about be flush right now. Yep, there we go. Guys, the semi-gloss just puts them back to how they looked from the factory. Ford and GM cars would use the same stuff on their suspension. And it just looks nicer to have your suspension a nice semi-gloss black. Anyway, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to put some tools up, and then we'll get those back on the car. All right, we have the spindle freshly painted. It looks good. And we got a new ball joint pressed in. I probably lost about 30 or 45 minutes because I had to let the paint dry. But we're going to go ahead, slip our ball joint back in, and put the nut on the top. And then we're going to have to lower the car onto the jack stand to get the upper, wow, those upper ball joints are in really good condition, to get it to lower into the spindle here. Okay, we're almost through the hole. Need to lower it a little bit more. Then we want to get our 17 millimeter and crank that back down. There you go. So I'm tightening this nut. You can see it's not fully tight. You see the gap. Problem is the ball joint is that just exactly that. It's a ball. So it starts spinning in the joint as you're trying to tighten the nut. So you put a little weight on the bottom of it and it'll push it into the taper right here and make it a tight fit where it won't spin. And there we go. That side's done. Let's go do the other side. All right, we're going to go ahead and reattach our our steering arm right here, and it's important to use blue Loctite. That's what Mercedes used from the factory. All right, there's a long bolt and a short bolt. Long bolt goes in the back, short bolt goes in the front. And that's a 19 millimeter with the impact. That's a lot of torque, guys. That's easily 60 to 80 foot-pounds with that impact. And you always want to check with your torque wrench to make sure. There we go. So we are good on both sides. Now let's get our dust shields back on. All right, we're going to put our dust shield back on, and I don't know why the Mercedes would blue Loctite these, but they do. So we're just following the factory reinstallation procedure. All right, let's go knock out the other side. All right, guys, here's the two outer bearings. I can see there's still plenty of grease in there. They've obviously been repacked at some point and changed, because I noticed the seals on the back were new inner bearing seals. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and just pack some fresh grease down in here before we put them back on the car. There we go. Those are nice and freshly packed to put back on the car. Let's go ahead and put our rotor and hub with our freshly packed bearing back on the car. Very nice. Wipe away some of that excess grease there. Then let's put back on our retaining nut. Now, keep in mind, you do not crank these down. I've talked about this a lot. You can see the shape. That is not a shape you can put a wrench on. It's meant to be tightened by hand, and you just tighten it till you get the play out. See, there's play in there right now, so we need to go tighter. Still got play. Oh, the play just went away. All right, there's a little bit of play. There we go. That's tight. See, there's no play. And that's why they make you do that by hand, because if you over tighten them, the bearings can't do their job. Because you'll be compressing the bearings together and putting too much friction. All right. There we go. Let's go check the other side. All right, I had an extra one of those little radio interference, little copper pieces that goes in the end of the spindle. So, I'm gonna stick that thing in there. I don't really know what these do, but something to do with radio interference. It's probably antiquated, no longer valid, but they're supposed to be there. And here we've packed our grease cap. So we're going to stick that back on there. And hang on, let me get a mallet. And these are pretty easy to put back on. You just tap it and spin the wheel, and there you go. All right. Now let's put our caliper back on. Alrighty, here we go. Brake pads are good on this. I can tell they were recently changed. Here you go. Those are maybe 75% left. And the rotor is also, that's a newer rotor that's got plenty of life left, like we're talking 50,000 miles or something. No need to change that right now. All right, got that on there. There you go, and there's 2 bolts, one here and one here. Look at that nice new ball joint. And of course we got to put the blue Loctite. There we go. That just takes one good, and that's the right amount of torque. After you've been doing it for 15 years, you know that. Don't do that your first time. Get out your torque wrench. All right, boom. We have new ball joints, beautifully painted spindle. Everything is reattached. There's our beautiful ball joint. That'll last a long time, another 100,000 miles. All right, so the clock's running. So let me get these wheels back on. We're going to see what my time's at. All right, we have everything back together. New shocks, new lower control arm bushings, new tie rods, new ball joints. This car is going to drive so nice. There we go. Let's look at our time. All right, there we're done with the ball joints. Now my clock said 2 hours and 30 minutes, but I know 30 to 40 minutes. I went inside, got something to drink, sat down for a minute because I was waiting on the paint to dry on the spindles. So I'm going to say, and then I started with the car already on the lift and the brakes already removed, so we'll add 30 minutes back in for that. So I'm going to say right about 2 hours and 30 minutes to do a set of ball joints on a 85 300D or any 123. 2 hours and 30 minutes. So anyway, I'm going to take this out for a test drive, and the next video, you guys are going to see the test drive and the walk around because I'm officially done with this car. All right, like, subscribe, do all the stuff, comment. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.